Welcome to the From Lab to Patient, Garage to Market podcast with your host, Phil Crowley. In each episode, we will discuss professionals serving the tech startup market and the various issues of importance to those companies. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our website, CrowleyLawLLC.com. Now here's the host of From Lab to Patient, Garage to Market, Phil Crowley.
Hi, and thanks for tuning into our podcast. We look to bring to you experts in the life sciences and technology area who can share their perspectives to help you in your important work in driving your business forward. Issues, mistakes to avoid, issues to focus on, to try to demystify the process of bringing great ideas from the lab to the patient, from the garage to the marketplace. Today, I'm delighted to have as my guest Patricia Peiffer, who is the principal research analyst for Quesited. Quesited is a consulting firm that's focused on market research broadly. And I know that many of you in the startup world don't really focus on market research, but it's an essential part of your success. And particularly when you go out to raise funds, investors will want to know that you've done your homework. Also, please stay tuned, because at the end of my discussion with Patricia, I'll ask her to give us a couple of tips to help you avoid mistakes and increase your prospects for success in this important area. Patricia, welcome.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here today and to talk about one of my favorite topics.
Well, that's great. Please tell us a bit about your background and the pathway that led you to focus your work on this area.
Sure, I'd love to. Although I usually talk about other people's pathways to success, but I welcome the opportunity to share mine as well. So I started with a degree in retail and worked for a global consumer packaged goods firm who really was focused on consumer behavior and the experience. And I really enjoyed working for this firm until one time they came out with a new campaign, marketing and sales campaign, that was completely different than what they had in the past and what our customers really had come to understand and trust. So this new campaign was of interest to me. I wanted to see if it would increase sales, and it did not. And ultimately, the company reverted back to its tried and true campaigns. Well, that campaign kept working on me to the point that I left the company and returned to school to earn a degree in marketing. Upon my graduation from then, I entered the workforce again at the time the Glass-Steagall Act was coming down, the wall that between brokerages and banks. And because of my extensive retail experience, I was picked up by a brokerage firm and became a registered investment advisor. During that period of time, again, I became more interested with the success of companies and how they actually would turn out products and services that consumers wanted, that investors wanted to put their money into that. So I returned to school for my master's in marketing, and it was there that I had a wonderful instructor who actually taught me to research. She kept saying, keep digging. For my master's thesis, keep digging. I thought, oh, here's the insights. Here's the genesis. Keep digging. Look for that gold nugget. And it's because of that education I received. It was Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, that it really resulted in a twofold success, short-term and long-term. My thesis was actually accepted by the Society for Case Research in the Business Case Journal as my short-term success, but my long-term success was that it developed an interest, an intellectual curiosity of really digging deeply to understand the competitive marketplace, consumers' attitudes, their behaviors, their emotions. And so it's all of that I bring, this intellectual curiosity of the reason why buyers, consumers, customers do what they do, behave the way they do. And I like to bring that kind of experience to organizations who really want to succeed in the marketplace.
So I take it that what you do helps them to establish their strategic direction, because if I understand correctly, Patricia, what you do is help companies understand the motivations of their customers and how to reach out and touch them in a way that will motivate them to buy their products, right?
Well, exactly. What we do is to provide the voice of the market, the voice of the consumer, the actions and reactions of competitors or substitutes, such that it lays the foundation so that you have a clearer understanding of where you're going to build a successful business. Because without understanding the landscape itself and the people who are working in that landscape, you're building on sand. It becomes it's a hit or miss to really build a strong structure on a weak foundation. And the information, the market information, the data, statistical data that we bring you is actually the bricks and mortar of your foundation. And so with that, strategy for business, strategy for communications, your tactics, tools for messaging, reaching your partners, your customers, your consumers, understanding the competitors, actually blocking competitors. We provide that kind of information, that in-depth information, so that you really have that strong foundation.
That sounds like a really important first step. I have seen companies that seem to have had great ideas, attracted a lot of interest from investors. In fact, investors virtually throwing money at the company, and then they come to the market, particularly in the technology area where it's easier to do that, and then the idea flops, and the investors have lost their money. And it always seemed to me that people made some assumptions about how their particular product or service was going to affect the marketplace, and could have benefited from some market analysis to better understand who their customers are and how they're motivated. And I've heard it said many times that people actually make decisions emotionally, and then they rationalize how they make those decisions. And the work that you do, it seems to me, is kind of inoculating companies against missing some key aspects of
Oh,
how
sure. Absolutely.
are,
Absolutely.
making decisions. Could you give us some examples of work you've done to help companies grow and develop? And if you have any, follow-on examples of what happened after they used the market research.
So I do. And a couple of them are really quite interesting and fascinating to me. One in particular was is a manufacturing company, and this manufacturing company was presented with a unique prospect. A scientist had come to them with a product that the scientist believed had tremendous value to the marketplace. And the scientists believe that the primary purchaser would be technology, the solar uh, panel technology. Um, but the manufacturer reached out to me and said, this is something new for us. Would be a whole new design. The benefit of this product was that it could withstand severe climate swings. And so they said it might have possibilities, but the price that the scientist wants for the patent tells us we need to know that there's more of a market than this, or we want to know how large this solar market is. Mm-hmm. So we were set to research the possibilities of this product that, actually wasn't really on the market. It was a custom design. So we did really deep dive, financials, competition. What we what we discovered is that there were a couple of markets that one was evolving and one was existing that really would benefit from having this particular device. The one we uncovered, we identified actually some industry experts to interview. There was a new phenomenon had been identified as a silent killer, and it was a place where electric current, water, and people converged. And what they were finding is that when these three elements converge, people can die or get seriously injured. At that time, it's called electric shock drowning. And at the time, the National Fire Protection Foundation and the National Fire Protection Association were striving to change code, the National Electric Code. And they realized that this particular component really had serious applications for them, that it could actually minimize the effect of this. Another market we identified for them would be the marine military. The military was purchasing many more over the next several decades ships, and we identified that as a possible market for this particular component. Today, the tagline for their custom design device is "From solar to submarine." And so it was because of our deep dive that this company, the manufacturers, were able to enter these new markets, and they didn't know existed, nor did the scientists. But our research uncovered these, and it became their tagline in a real new market for them to add business.
Well, that's really interesting because sometimes some of the most profitable ideas come from things that are unexpected, unanticipated, and which people would not have known about if they hadn't done some research. In some cases, of course, we know of cases where the company kind of stumbles on some additional feature of their product that drives sales, but something that they didn't really anticipate. But your particular approach is very analytical, which I'm hoping that our listeners and viewers who are analytical people in the technology and life sciences areas will appreciate the importance of doing that. Certainly, in terms of attracting investors and investments, they are very interested in understanding the ability of a product to penetrate a particular market. What other examples do you have?
Let me think about this for a second. Well, here's one that was interesting. It was a competitor comparison to capture market share. This company actually was a global personal healthcare product company, but they were introducing a new product, and they wanted to compare it to the leading competitor product, and they wanted to get a firsthand user experience from this. So we were brought on to actually send out product A, which is our client's product, and client B to people across the country. We repackaged both products so that there was no idea of what the brands of these products. We sent them nationwide, and with each of these products, the user had to keep an online diary. So they would use product A 5 days and write a diary of their experience with that product for those 5 days. The second 5 day, after they used it 5 days, they were to evaluate the product, again, with an online evaluation form. Next 5 days, they tried product B, 5-day diary evaluation. And then at the end, they had to make a comparison. How do you compare product A, product B? We had images of the product. What do you like best on each of these products? These respondents were enabled to upload photographs. They showed us them using the product. They showed the product itself so that the Client could actually see how the product was wearing, how it was operating for the respondent. And what was interesting is that we identified a whole new emerging segment for this group. Previously, they had considered that one particular segment was their primary segment. But through our research, we helped them identify that there was a much younger segment, a much younger demographic moving in due to um, new diets, medication, weight gain. And so their product now had a much younger demographic. And now their marketing actually reflects that, where it was really reflecting a much older generation. They now focus on a younger through the older. So again, we expanded their market by identifying through this test that this product was being used and they weren't aware of it.
Well, that's very interesting. That brings
Or
up
the client knew it.
Mhm. That's very interesting. It brings up the issue of product segmentation. But before we get to that, I'd just like to take a minute to acquaint our viewers and listeners with Crowley Law. We are a boutique firm of very experienced lawyers who are passionate about helping life sciences and other technology entrepreneurs avoid being taken advantage of as they bring their products forward to the marketplace. One of the things that I have seen over the years is that sometimes innovators engage with experienced business lawyers a little bit too late in the process and give up much of the value of the hard work that they have put in to develop their products before they get help. And so we are very dedicated to protecting founders, protecting innovators. As a former research physicist, I used to do my work in superconductivity. That's the technology that helps to make magnetic resonance imaging systems work. And I have a soft spot in my heart for innovators. I know the hard work that goes into creating knowledge. And as experienced corporate lawyers, we understand the difficulties of taking those great ideas and bringing them to the marketplace. So we are happy to provide a website, crowleylawllc.com, at which we have a library of free resources to help you answer some of the questions that you have about the legal issues surrounding innovation, and we're happy to make those available. If you have questions, please contact us at info@crowleylawllc.com. Please remember, we're here to help. Now, Patricia, getting back to the issue of segmentation, it was interesting that you mentioned how that consumer company found a different segment of the market. You know, when we deal with companies in the life sciences, typically they will look at different geographical areas to determine potential markets for drugs. You know, for instance, the United States or the rest of the world, or some particular industries. How do you use segmentation to create extra value for your clients?
Well, we look at demographics, meaning, age, sex, income, those types of things, because all of that plays into how, generational beliefs and interests. We also look at psychographics, which are lifestyle. And again, with the medical industry, biotech, those lifestyle interests can really play an important role. Understanding those and play an important role of how they would communicate their product, their service to the broader market. Lifestyles, interests. We also look at geographic regions around the world and in the U.S. And we've worked with global and international companies who want to be here in the U.S. Especially, we've been approached by quite a few manufacturers from emerging markets or smaller countries who want to do business here. And we generally are looking at the geographics. Where is the greatest population for their that would be more agreeable to purchase of their product? And so we generally looking East Coast, West Coast, Chicago region. Recently, depending on the product, we're also looking at the Southwest because there's a lot of younger people migrating to the Southwest. So we do a lot of different segmentations. We do a lot of cross-tabulation. If they're this age and if they live here and if they have this interest, what's the likelihood they will purchase this product? Or given this product, where, given these parameters, would there be the greatest opportunity for acceptance, growth, influence, that type of thing? So we do. That's probably first and foremost out of the gate. That's what we look at. But if I might just circle back to one of your earlier points, Phil, about using this data and information with investors, I think that's an undervalued or misunderstood point from entrepreneurs or manufacturers. Increasingly, we hear that, buyers in buyers of products or services, say in retail or even wholesale and distributors, and also investors, they want to know that the presenter knows who the market is. They don't want to have to do the research and pay for that themselves. They want to know that the one who's bringing the product to them already knows the market exists, knows how large the market is, knows who's going to purchase, because time and money, right? So distributors, retailers, wholesalers, investors, they want to know that you know. And that is something that comes as a bit of a surprise to some small startups and entrepreneurs, that they had to provide that. They're so focused on their product and how it works and how it was developed and what solutions it will provide, that they haven't spent, not all of them, but many haven't spent the time in defining the market who actually will be the purchasers of that product. So thank you for bringing that point up.
It sounds like an important way to de-risk the launch of the product, to make sure you're directing it at the right market segment, the people who are most likely to take it up. Talking about technology and market segments, though, brings me to a question about artificial intelligence and its impact. Are you and I going to be replaced by a chat GPT or some other large language model? And have you encountered use of AI? And what about these risks of hallucinations, where the kind of artificial intelligence engine goes off the rails and provides completely spurious data?
Well, of course, that's the hot topic, and you'll find enough articles saying that marketing is breaking apart because of AI. AI has a very important role in marketing at this point, and that would be to provide information for hypothesis setting, or even to actually test some of our beliefs about a particular market, a particular product, even perhaps messaging. Those are time savers. Those are extreme time savers, and we welcome that. If we can, go through this the data that we've already collected quickly, and recognize something happening here. We keep seeing this language. We keep seeing these requests. We keep seeing something. Let's see if this is real in the marketplace. So it's going to help us identify gaps that we had perhaps overlooked. And that's a good thing. We can do that more quickly. Second, we can go through data that from customers' responses, from say online engagement, just chatter, and see the language that people are using. Perhaps we'll be able to develop newer, smarter, sharper messaging, because we've overlooked language that could be used, and just through our own myopic views of what we're looking at, we miss that. That's going to help out tremendously. So I think that's all good, and that's going to be time savers, and it's proving to be time savers for marketers now. Will it replace us? It will replace those who aren't involved in talking with people, because until we get to what is making the purchase decision, we still have who is making the purchase decision. And so to answer the question, who is making the purchase decision, we need to talk to people. We need to observe them in the marketplace. We need to see what they are purchasing, how they purchase. And I actually do that quite a bit. My feet are on the street, my ear is in the wind, my eye is in the sky. I am watching people, listening, seeing how people behave, how they respond, how they react. And the AI, we can look at all of that, but without the knowledge of how people are behaving, how they're responding, how they're emoting, what they're saying, who they're saying it to, you don't have a basis for that. So until we get to the point, what is making the purchase for us, and it's still who is the purchase, we need to have that foundation of people in order to avoid the hallucinations you mentioned. I can read articles now, as probably many can, and you see they're written by AI. And I can even tell that some of the things they're saying aren't true, because that's not how people are behaving. So you have to have that in place so you can say, wait a minute, I know the AI is telling us this, but when we see people or we ask people directly, it's not quite aligning. And there again, you can miss a good market opportunity if you've misaligned. So it's still about people. And whether it's B2B or B2C, it's people making the decisions. And again, to your earlier point about emotions, even in business situations, people, men and women, use emotion, or emotion does play a part in that buying decision.
That's clearly the case. I think that we guys sometimes kind of understate what that is, but it's just, I've seen it in so much psychological literature to convince me that indeed that is the fact, and that ignoring that in our thinking about marketing our products and marketing our ideas really shortchanges our opportunities for success. But what do you like most about what you do?
I like the engagement with people, both my clients, customers, even I enjoy creating the survey instruments, knowing that I am respectful of their time, but I have information I have to collect. And so that's both a challenge and a pleasure, designing a survey instrument that's efficient, that will capture the information my clients need to make good business decisions, but being respectful of my respondents also. I enjoy that. But what really tickles the fancy is getting that information back, turning it into data. I know that sounds a little strange, but then seeing the numbers, oh my gosh, this many people want this to happen. This many people like this. Oh my goodness, this many people are willing to pay this price for this benefit for this product, and then turning that over to the client. So all of that, watching that all come about and knowing that that is becoming the foundation for a good strategy, good communication to deliver a good product to people who actually want it or need it. They need it. But, I always say that, you could have the greatest product, but if you don't have the right messaging to the right people, it would be like talking gibberish to them. They won't know it. So you have to know how to speak to people. And our research helps that organization better understand who they need to speak with and how they need to speak with them.
And then, Patricia, could you give our viewers and listeners perhaps one or two tips on what they can do to increase their appreciation for market research and then to use it to help drive their own success?
Sure. I think some of the biggest misconceptions in the market is that we have no competitors for our product. No, there's nothing like this in the market, and I'm just going with my gut. Those are very dangerous concepts. And so what an organization needs to really succeed is to do that deep dive, keep digging, find those golden nuggets that really are going to set your product apart in the marketplace, or your messaging, or block competitors. And you do that by deeply understanding the breadth and the depth of your market. And the only way you can do that is to have someone, an organization, or a person in your organization or in their organization who understands and has an affinity for really bringing the voice of the marketplace, the voice of the customer, the voice of the partners to the front, and being an advocate for them. For us, we walk in the shoes of the customers. And so discounting that voice can be extremely costly to an organization. So better understanding how they're using your product, better understanding how you can communicate the value of your product, and how to communicate to those you want to partner with or who you want as investors is so vitally important. You only get that if you ask the people in the marketplace, what do you think about us?
So you're basing your decisions on true data rather than your own gut feelings. Well,
Right.
thank you so much for sharing your perspectives. I'm sure our viewers and listeners have found this very valuable. And it's clear to me there's a lot more to learn and appreciate about this. If viewers want to get in touch with you or get in touch with your company, how can they do that?
Well, they can reach out to us via our website. It's QUES as in Sam, IT as in Tom, ED.com. And we have contact information there. Or I'm on LinkedIn, Patricia W. Peiffer, and I can be contacted through LinkedIn as well.
That's terrific. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Phil, thank you. This has been a great fun. Thanks so much.
Thanks again. And thanks to our viewers. Please subscribe to our podcast if you've found this valuable. We're here to help.
You've been tuning into the From Lab to Patient, Garage to Market podcast with your host, Phil Crowley. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our website, CrowleyLawLLC.com. If you found this information helpful, please subscribe, like, leave a positive review, and share with others.